Coming here in studio now, I'm joined by international affairs analyst dperry, the former Europe and Middle East editor at the Associated Press. Dan, great to have you with us on the rundown as always. I'm curious because we have reported on so many of these crackdowns, so to speak, in the West Bank. This is just the latest, quote unquote, large scale counterterrorism operation. But is it enough? Is this just the same cyclical tackling of the problem without actually getting to the root of the problem?
Look, you have to fight terrorism, obviously. Every couple of years, every couple of months, really, there's another announcement of an operation against Hamas and Islamic Jihad. These are the most vile kind of terrorists. Their goal is not to free the Palestinians. Their goal is to eliminate Israel. The occupation of the West Bank and Gaza before that, perhaps again, is a favor to these groups because they want it to be one country, half Arab, and at war with itself. And they think they can win that war. Their aim is to kill Jews, not just settlers in the West Bank, although they're the easiest target, and kind of sitting ducks, despite the delusion that this somehow is contributing to security, which people seem to believe in a weird way. But also all Jews and all Israelis. So there's no choice but to go after them. The Palestinian Authority, I believe, tries its best. The army will tell you they do collaborate with the military, cooperate with the military, but they're weak and they're scared. And they don't have a lot of public legitimacy either among Palestinians. And so Israel has no choice but to do this, but it's never going to be enough. It's mowing the lawn, essentially. The grass is always going to grow back. Some will say it's naive to think that the Palestinians can ever be mollified. But there's certainly a plausible narrative that says that a diplomatic process that is aimed at leading towards a partition that gives the Palestinians some version of separation from Israel, some type of independence, even if it's a demilitarized state or something else, but not a state of absolute military occupation as they face today, is inevitable. Now, the West Bank is a fairly small territory. It's defined. And it not only is under military occupation, which right now is necessary, otherwise Israel would face October 7th coming at it from right near Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, but it also has settlers there. So you have 3 million Palestinians, 500,000 settlers. They're very much mixed, and the settlers have rights and the Palestinians do not. Now, if anyone believes that this is not a situation that will result in terrorism whereby the terrorists have a lot of public support, they know nothing about history. So there really are two versions of Israel, one where the government is at least trying to address this problem, maybe failing, as all attempts have failed. And the other is where the government is trying to create more settlement and is cracking down on the Palestinian population, not just the terrorists, and has no interest whatsoever in the diplomatic solution that obviously will raise the level of attempts at terrorism and the level of public support for it. We currently in Israel have the second kind of government. So this agitation in the West Bank and the constant danger of its eruption into a third intifada is constant and ever growing.
The boiling point continues to boil, it seems.
Well, have we reached the boiling point? Not yet, but God forbid we very well may.
All right, Dan, stay with us. I do want to turn our attention now to Gaza. I want to ask you about this idea of these two Gazas. Who gets the money when it comes to rebuilding, as long as there is not a demilitarized or a Hamas that's disarming? Could this idea actually work? Or would there be some sort of an international backlash as long as Israel is still controlling the side that does get the money and the refunding and the rebuilding?
I think the interesting paradox is that even though Israel believes that the whole world almost is against the Gaza war, and for sure, there's a huge consensus against the degree of brutality that was applied and the length of it and suspicion of the government, all that is true. But there's almost consensual support for the actual goals of returning the hostages and eliminating Hamas as a military and a governing force in Gaza, which is, as I've said many times in this studio, a favor primarily to the poor people of Gaza, whom Hamas has hijacked and who are oppressed by Hamas. So the question is whether Israel can achieve this second goal at this point without resuming the war and the brutality and the methods that were so disdained. What methods are there? The fundamental problem with the Trump plan is that even though Israel agreed to it in the most public and vehement manner possible with Netanyahu and Trump at the White House, in a press conference, Hamas never did. I didn't really hear them agreeing to it, to all the terms. I never heard them say, yes, we're going to disarm.
They never did.
No. And so this idea that Hamas agreed to this is a little bit wishful thinking and Trumpian premature declarations of victory. So Israel got back the hostages, and that's wonderful. And at this point, if Netanyahu suffices with what happened, which is hostages for end of war, that's a deal he could have had a year ago or more, maybe even 2 years ago. And it's looking like the rest of the war was for not very much. You could argue about Hezbollah's successes, the Iran success, but it's politically difficult for him, and it's a strategic danger for Israel, leaving Hamas in charge there. What levers can be applied is an open question. I would like to see a conference, not like the fake one in Sharm el-Sheikh when they agreed to the plan, but a real one, including Qatar and Turkey, and Egypt, and the European Union, and the Arab League, and NATO, and the Americans, and whoever else wants to come, explaining that no reconstruction of any kind will occur in the areas of Gaza, roughly half of Gaza, not 2/3, half of Gaza, that is controlled by Hamas, where 90% of the people leave. Now, humanitarian aid has to go in because it would be immoral, illegal not to. And that's a problem also because Hamas hijacks part of it, taxes a lot of it, and uses it for rebuilding. This is a terrible, horrible situation. And there is a temptation to say, look, maybe we separate the Palestinians in the interior, Hamas-controlled interior, from Hamas by inviting them to the perimeter and building temporary towns for them there or whatever, having the reconstruction be there. To my mind, that is very legitimate and potentially useful because if enough of them come, then resuming the war against Hamas will kill fewer people. The problem is, as a general said, Hamas may try to prevent them from moving. That is a bridge we should cross when we get to it. Solutions do exist.